Ukraine's invasion is the biggest foreign incursion into Russia since World War II. It is a big gamble, but it could impose a real blow to President Putin. This was the scene in Russia's Kursk region today. Local authorities are in the process of evacuating people from their homes as Ukrainian troops move closer. But as Kyiv makes gains in Kursk, Russia is striking back. Forces have captured more territory around Ukraine's Donetsk region, an important logistical hub. All right, for more, let's bring in the founder of the Ukraine Freedom Project, Stephen Moore. He lives in Kyiv. Stephen, great to be with you again. So let's begin with Ukraine's incursion into Russia's Kursk region. President Zelenskyy has claimed that his troops have full control over the town of Sudzha. Do you think this changes the dynamic of the war?
Oh, and yes, completely. It's super exciting. We here in Kyiv call it an invasion. So the Ukrainians have invaded Russia, which is the first time that's happened since World War II. And it's the first time that a non-nuclear power has invaded a nuclear power. And, you know, we're 10 days into it and there's been no missiles. So it does completely change the dynamic. You know, Putin is always saber-rattling with nukes, and it scares off policymakers in D.C. and makes them hyper cautious. But, you know, these red lines that Putin puts up are, you know, just kind of lines in the sand. So this really changes the equation because, you know, everyone here in Kyiv has a spring in their step. You know, we had Shahed missiles come in last night, and you know, they're a little bit more tolerable because we know the Russians are suffering as well.
Yeah, and as you know, Russia has rerouted units after Ukraine's incursion. Why do you think they were so slow to respond?
I think Russia is a kind of a paper tiger. They've shown themselves to be, you know, their Soviet era. They're slow. You know, there's a reason the Soviet Union fell, and they're still using that military doctrine. So it is difficult for them to respond to new things. They get pretty good. You put them in one place, and they do the same thing over and over and over again, and they get pretty good at it. But surprises like this, they can't deal with it well.
Yeah, and as for the use of U.S. weapons, spokespeople from the White House, the Pentagon, and also the State Department, they won't officially confirm, you know, whether they're being used or not. I want to get your thoughts on that, Stephen. What do you know?
Yeah, no, there's visual confirmation of Strykers, American-made Stryker assault vehicles being used in this. I've been told they've hauled in a howitzer, an M777 howitzer, U.S.-made. So there are U.S. weapons being used right now inside Russia.
Stephen, almost out of time here, but quickly, I mean, do you see an end to this war anytime soon?
Well, I think what people are looking at is that regardless of who gets into the White House next year, you're probably going to see a call for a negotiated peace. And so now the Ukrainians have land to bargain with. You know, will Putin pull out of Donbass and Crimea and get Kursk back? I think that's a really interesting strategy on their part. Two, they're shown to be winning now, and they're showing what we've all known, which is that when you give them the weapons they need and let them use it most effectively, then they win. And so I think that this really changes the game, and if there is a peace negotiation, Ukraine will be negotiating from a position of strength.
Well, we're going to leave it right there. Stephen, thank you so much for coming on, for all your insights. I always appreciate it.
Oh, always great to be with you. Thanks, Tracy.